All right. So
All
we
right.
just, all right.
All right.
We just filmed Trail Ready Ankles, and the biggest insider tip as the person doing the modeling that I want to offer is like, we're naming sensations and motions that we'd like you to feel in your ankle. And I just really want to like normalize that you may not feel any of those sensations, and the motions might feel like a total joke. And Will talks about that in the class, but I think it's worth even lifting up a little bit more. You might also feel a really big differential side to side, and that's not a bad thing. That's just we're generally asymmetrical, especially if you've had one side that's had one sprain or several and one side that hasn't. There's going to be a big differential in terms of the motion that's available and the sensation that's available. The one thing I wanted to layer in is that, like, you know, if you have a side that feels things better, celebrate that and know that that's a sensory template that you can use for the other side. So for me, my right side, I can actually feel, you know, when we're propped up on the towel and we're looking for that ankle stretch kind of through this area, I can actually get a clean sense of that after hanging out in it for a while. On my left side, I really can't, but it helps me trust that I'm going to find it, to know that I can feel it on my other side. And it also helps me, like, as I'm kind of like being with it, I'm like, okay, I'm not just looking for a phantom thing that someone else is describing. I'm looking for a sensation that I've found in my body just on the other side.
That's such an important point. And, you know, in a very real sense, let's take Hannah's left ankle, for example. If she's feeling like the lengthening ask for that ankle is not clear, that's one of the best ways we know that that's an important thing for her to work on.
Totally.
And so it's so important to like be kind to yourself about that, because otherwise it's really easy to just like turn away and be like, I can't feel that, I'm not going to work on that.
Yeah.
When in reality, one of the most fundamental things our joints have to do is be able to lengthen.
Yeah.
So even just a little bit of extra input there might go a really long way. I'd be curious kind of to hear how this felt maybe tomorrow or whenever Hannah comes back to working on E version. In my experience, it's like it starts coming pretty quick once you really give it that honest effort in a class. So.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing I noticed again on my left, like I don't feel in my life like I have an ankle limitation. Like if I were to hire Will, I wouldn't be like, yeah, I've got this left ankle problem. So it's only through actually exploring some of these like more intricate motions that are intrinsic to the human ankle and really going, oh, there's a difference between my left and my right. And then I start going, right, and sometimes my left knee hurts. Maybe it's not a knee problem because my knee range of motion is pretty good. My hip range of motion is pretty good, but the ankle is where I'm really seeing that key differential. So it's just another reminder that like, even if you don't think you're an ankle person, it's worth taking the ankle class. It's worth taking the wrist class, because sometimes the part that's sort of rippling up and causing discomfort somewhere in the chain is not the part that's complaining. It's a different part that's not able to perform its full functions.
I would even say usually that's the case. Yeah, the way my PT in college used to say it is like the victim cries out, not the criminal, when it comes to body tissue. So like Hannah's knee, talking to her, is maybe not her knee's fault, if we want to continue the analogy in that way. And this is partly
my knee and my calf.
Yeah.
My calf gets real bad and I'm like, oh, I gotta stretch my calf.
Yeah, and of course that makes sense. But it also is a little bit of a reminder to go, hey, all the joints in our body combine together to help us do our lives. So, you know, even just focusing on one ankle for 20 minutes, it could feel like, God, this is such a waste of time. What about the rest of my body? The rest of your body is relying on your ankle working as well as it can.
Big time.
Yeah, thanks for
and
that.
Just shout out to like, if you're not feeling a clear stretch, holding a passive stretch that you don't feel does feel very demoralizing. It's really easy for everything else on your to-do list to be like, hey, pick me, you're wasting your time right now. But just a reminder that like, you know, this is the only body we're doing this lifetime in.
Yeah.
And so if we can take that time to really make sure that all of its parts are working to the capacity that we need to be able to do the activities that we love. Like I love to go hiking.
Yeah.
How much time do I spend doing ankle mobility? Not enough.
Yeah.
But this is a good reminder of that.
Yeah. Okay. And the trail part, I gotta come back to that for 1 second, because when you go on a hike, yeah, you're using your ankles, you're using your knees. It's actually really good training for your ankles. But if you can take ankles that have been upgraded a little bit on that hike, you're going to get so much more training just from the hike. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you often say it as like, whatever activity you're doing, you're using the joints that you have. Mm-hmm. So while someone might go, oh, well, I get all the ankle training I need on a hike, it's uneven terrain, it forces it, like, sure. But if you have one ankle that can only move this much and one ankle that can move the full amount, you're hiking with that ankle.
Yeah.
It's not getting better on that hike. It's just using what it has. It's in Kinstretch that we actually start to give more capacity to that joint. And then if you take that joint on a hike, you're going to get the full benefit of the activity.
Ding ding, she's a smarty. So glad she's here to sort of...
I'm literally saying stuff that you say all the time.
Yeah, but it's, you know, it's putting it together. So that's a great way to kind of wrap this, because as we said throughout the class, like, coming back to the material is often when the sensations will become much more obvious.
For sure.
So have fun on that repeat visit.
Yar.